Hello, fellow lovers of the liminal and the weird, and welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces. Today I'm going to be continuing to talk about the stories I've been reading in Horror Times 10. And this time I'm going to be talking about Robert E. Howard's The Dead Remember. Yeah, this book of mine is, I'm loving it, and it is absolutely trashed. There's stains on this book that go through, I think, I read to page 50 something and it's still in there. And then there's a stain on the back that's just awful. And I don't even know where I got it, but I love this kind of stuff. These old books, you never know what's going to be inside of them. Anyway, let's talk about Robert E. Howard and The Dead Remember. It is an epistolary story, so it's all letters and news articles and stuff like that. It's a quick read, and it is, in my opinion, kind of a simple plot. It's always important to remember as we read these that they were written much earlier. I think this story is almost 100 years old, maybe 90, 95 years old. So what shocks us now and what shocked people back in the day won't be the same. But of the three that I've read, the Lovecraft, the Derleth, this one seemed to be, even more than the Lovecraft one, a very straightforward horror story. Not a lot going on here. But the first thing we're presented with is a letter to a man named Jim's brother. And Jim is on a cattle drive outside of Texas, but he's from Texas. And they're on this cattle drive. And he admits to murdering a couple of African Americans whom he went to see to get some food, and they were very kind, and then they were drinking with each other, and eventually they started playing dice, and he lost all his money at dice, and he accuses the man of cheating, and eventually they start talking about how they're going to kick each other's asses, and he shoots the man, and then his wife comes out, and he doesn't want to, but she runs at him, and he shoots her as well. And as she's dying, she puts a curse on him that within a year she will come and get him, and he will be dead as well. So again, we see Robert E. Howard working in some voodoo in his horror stories, and it's hopefully a topic that I hope he eventually moves on from. I feel like Pigeons from Hell, which I've also done on this channel, is essentially plot-wise the same story, and I think Pigeons from Hell was handled so much better. It was, for me, a much more enjoyable story. Another thing to consider is that it was not... You didn't earn a lot of money being a writer back in the pulp era, and a lot of pulp writers would write just tons of output in order to give them to magazines and get them through. And this one doesn't, for me, feel like it's up to Robert E. Howard's usual standards. This might have been one that he whipped out pretty quickly just to get something in a magazine to get paid. But it's not bad. It's not a terrible story. It's just, it doesn't have that same explosion of incredible prose at the end that Howard stories, for me, have started to become known for. And I've only read, this is my third story, I've read The Tower of the Elephant, a Conan story, that the end is just absolutely incredible. I've read Pigeons from Hell, and the end of that one, absolutely incredible. And I've read this one, and this one just didn't stand up to those other ones, and they can't all be that wonderful, but it's still a really fun horror story. So as the cattle drive goes on, this young man Jim gets more and more paranoid. The rest of the story is documents of people being questioned about the death of this Jim guy and what actually went down. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and we'll talk a little bit about the publication history of this story. The Dead Remember was first published in Argosy, August 15th, 1936. The cover artist on that one was Emmett Watson. So yeah, it's about 89 years old as of this year, this story is. Next, it was published in 1961. Wow, what a jump for that one. 1961 in December, and that was in Fantastic Stories of Imagination with a cover by Lloyd Birmingham. Next, it was published by Arkham House in The Dark Man and Others, a Robert E. Howard short story collection, and that cover was done by Frank Patel. And then, in 1967, it was published in the anthology that I read it in, which is Horror Times 10. And I've got a beat up copy of this, and I don't know where I got it. Somebody named James Owen owned it before I did, and boy, it was loved. We'll say that. I like these old anthologies a lot. I really do. After that, it was published in Pigeons from Hell, which I have a copy of here. Okay, from here on out, spoilers. It's obvious that the voodoo curse is going to work and she's going to come back at him. He dies. But the uniqueness that Robert E. Howard uses at the end of this is amazing. So all these different people talk about what they saw concerning the murder. To get kind of right down to it, he walks out of a door and suddenly freaks out and pulls out his gun and fires his gun, and his gun explodes, destroying his hand, and then something crushes his head. They don't know what exactly it is, but what the forensics figure out is that there was a piece of, I think it's red and green patterned dress. And this is the color of the dress that the woman was wearing that he killed. And the court thinks this was the cloth he was cleaning his gun with, but the cloth he was cleaning his gun with was red and white. And they find some of this cloth that is the dress, but they don't realize it's the dress shoved into the barrel so that when he shot that gun, it blew up. And they say that that's what killed him, is a malfunctioning of his weapon, because he left some of that cloth in there. But in reality, it's the voodoo curse coming back on him. I do like that Robert E. Howard keeps making these bad guys that are the narrators, that are these white men that attack, or white women even in Pigeons from Hell, that attack people of color, and that eventually vengeance comes back upon them. That's twice that we've seen that. But I'm hoping, and I will of course be moving on through Pigeons from Hell, that we'll get some different kind of horror stories through here as well. Hopefully they're not all vengeance stories, but we'll see as we go on. So that's the third story that I read in Horror Times 10, and the last for this week. But I do plan on reading on something very interesting to me. The Captain of the Pole Star by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I think I have a copy, an old antiquarian copy of this book. I'm going to go check. Yeah, I do. The Captain of the Pole Star and Other Stories by A. Conan Doyle. I didn't realize this was a horror story, so the next story in this little anthology is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Captain of the Pole Star. So I'm going to read that one. I think I will continue on in this book and read that one because it sounds fantastic. That Receding Brow by Max Brand. Max Brand is a well-known Western writer, so horror is kind of not what he's known for, so I'm interested in that. But also, W.C. Morrow's The Unconquerable Enemy is in this one. And that, I did a W.C. Morrow book or story last week over an absinthe bottle, and I really enjoyed it, and this is on my list of wanting to read, so I'm going to read that as well. And then it has The Dead Valley by Ralph Adams Cram. Don't know anything about that. The Gorgon's Head by Dorothy Baker. It's the only female writer in here, and apparently it's a very interesting horror retelling of the Medusa myth. And then finally some Robert Bloch with The Skeleton in the Closet. And it opened with the Trunk Lady by Ray Bradbury. So I think I'm going to read more of this. It's really been a fun anthology. Plus, I'm excited to check out this Arthur Conan Doyle horror story. That sounds fantastic. All right, that's it for this week on Scary Stories. I hope you enjoyed me talking about Lovecraft and Derleth and Robert E. Howard. I'll continue on more, but I think I'm going to jump back into science fiction a little bit for a while. I've been having so much fun with horror. It's kind of, and weird stories. It's kind of hard to leave. Maybe I just need to start balancing a little bit of science fiction, a little bit of weird tales. You guys seem to like both equally, so I'm not too worried about it. All right, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.